Do not sit down. Don't you dare sit down. Whatever you're thinking about doing, do not sit down. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to go with your connection group against the back wall and stand in a group along the back wall. We're gonna play a little game. Do it, do it, do it. All right. Hurry, go quickly. All right, here we go. I want to play a little game, and here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna see how well you guys work together as a team. And so I have, all right, listen up. I've got stacks. Each stack has 10 pieces of paper. Your job as a connection group is going to be to get the paper, to unscramble the phrase, and then the first team to come back up here and tell me what the phrase is wins. Hint, it's in the Bible, okay? You're welcome. All right, here's what you need to know. There's two rules. There's two rules. Rule number one, you cannot guess the phrase until you have all of the pieces assembled in the correct order. No like, oh yeah, I got the reference, I figured it out. I know you're cheating, God knows you're cheating. That's what's most important. Number two, make sure you take from the same stack every time or you're gonna confuse you and your opponents, all right? And finally, number three, the way you will get these is you are gonna come forward 2 at a time from your connection group, 2 at a time, and you can only get 1 piece of paper per trip. Okay, hold on. One last piece. One of you has to have your eyes closed for the entire trip. On your mark, get set, go. It's crazy, go. Eyes closed, eyes closed. You wait for your friend. No. He took from that one. You use that one. Right here. He left you, Bryson, go back. One of you has your eyes closed, right here. There you go. You guys this isn't going very well. There's sacks right here. One of you has your eyes closed. One of you can have it open and you can lead them. Oh, all right, take from the same stack every time. Oh, we're getting all mixed up. All right, you can have your eyes open, it's fine. I'm changing the rules. Open your eyes. You guys are gonna hurt yourselves. Take from the same stack every time. Same stack. Whatever. Close enough. Go. Some of you out. Keep sending people. You can open your eyes. Everybody can have their eyes open. It was taking too long. 1 at a time. There you go. Quickly, guys, quickly. You can do this. Go. You can open your eyes. All right, if you think you've got it, keep coming. Run. Run. Sure. All right. The first team who thinks they have it, I want to hear it. This seems really close. Come on. If you think you know what the phrase is, somebody come tell me. Come get stuff. Run. 3. Oh, we've got teams that are all mixed up. Hey, girls, you can open your eyes. Did you hear that part? Yeah.
Where's the wrong pile?
Oh.
Where's the...
All right, we've got some teams that should be done. You guys got it? All right, let's hear it. That is incorrect. Come back up and try again. Great, what's the reference?
Proverbs 18:28. 24. 18:28.
All right, I'll give it to you. 7th grade men. Men. The men. All right, head on back to your seats. Hey, if you didn't get it yet, here's what the verse said. It says, there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Come on up, grab your seats, come in close. You know what you get? You get good friends. Yeah. There you go. All right, come on back, grab your seat. All right, wow, there's like, I don't know if we're like scarred from playing the smelling game or what, but there's like nobody up here. Where's all my friends? All right, fine, I'm coming over here. So, all right, if you didn't hear it, if you didn't get it, here's what the verse said that you guys put together. It said there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Proverbs 18:24. And tonight what we're gonna talk about in the second week of friendships is that a good friend, real friends, godly friends do not ever leave you alone. Like not in a bad way, like leave me alone, right? That's a sibling. Siblings don't ever leave you alone. Like I get that, that's like the negative version of that. Let's talk about the positive version of that, right? A real friend isn't gonna leave you alone. Here's what I love about group games is you were everything but alone in that game, right? You had your whole team with you. If you lost, you could share the blame. If you won, you could share the glory. Team games are the best. Here's what's not the best. Have you ever been like trying to play a team game and you're like the last person picked and you're just, or you think you might be and you're just waiting and you're like, please pick me, please pick me, please pick me. I don't want to be left alone. I think, yeah, it's the worst, right? I think we're all actually a little bit afraid of being alone. Man, schoolyard picks, like it was the worst as a kid, right? Did you know that fear has a name? Does anybody know what the fear of being alone is actually called? Fear of missing out, yep, okay, kind of. But really, anybody? It is something phobia. It's monophobia. Mono means one. Also the kissing disease, not the point, okay? Mono means one, phobia means fear. Sorry, that was on me. I shouldn't have said that. All right. Monophobia. It's a real thing, right? And guys, I guarantee you if we went around the room and you guys were all like given some like truth serum, you would all know that at some point or another in your life, like you woke up or you were like laying in bed trying to fall asleep and like there's this, or maybe you're sitting in school and you're in the middle of like a whole bunch of other students, but you just felt like this really nagging feeling that you were by yourself. You're like, how is that even possible? There's like 1,000 people at my school. But somehow, like when it really comes down to it, I still feel lonely. I still feel alone. And maybe it's like a fear of being alone if you were to lose somebody that you really care about or that you really love. Maybe it's a fear of being alone if maybe like your parents are fighting a lot or your parents have gone through a divorce and you know what that's like. And you're like, man, like I feel like I'm just so alone. Maybe it's a fear of being alone because you've been keeping a secret and you don't feel like you tell the truth to the people around you. And it just a little bit at a time, it makes you feel a little more alone and a little more alone. Monophobia, it's a real thing. And there's a fear of being alone. Guys, these things isolate us and it's unpleasant, right? But it's not just unpleasant, it can actually be dangerous. So I actually grew up, I spent a lot of time growing up down in Florida and we were right by the beach. It was awesome. It wasn't like surfing kind of beach, but we would take, and we had these, we called them boogie boards. I don't actually know what they're actually called. Is that actually what they're called? Whatever. But not the ones you ride on. Anyway, not the point. Okay, I'm like, guys, ADHD's thing. Okay, we have these things and we would go to the beach and we go ride these things all the time. And I remember growing up, I was probably like middle school, I was probably your guys' age, and we're out in the beach and we're doing this thing, and my dad is out on his little board with us. And first of all, when I was in middle school, I thought my dad was ancient. Like, I don't know if some of you guys feel that way about your parents, like, but you're like, man, my dad is so old. And now I'm as like old as my dad was, because I remember thinking like, he should have been doing that at his age, right? And now I'm like, wait a second, he's not that old, right? But we're out there, and all of a sudden, it's what's called like a rip tide or a rip current, like it pulls from underneath, and it literally took him underneath the water, and he slammed his head on the ground, right? And all of a sudden, he comes up out of the water, he's like dizzy, he's confused, that's why I was like, he's too old for this. And he's like bleeding out of his ear. I'm not even joking. It was bad news. The ocean got really dangerous really quick. What was totally safe for all of us as kids to be out in the middle of, all of a sudden got dangerous. And if he'd have been alone, if you'd have been a kid out there alone and that happened to you, it wouldn't have just been like a bummer that your friends didn't come to the beach. It would have been genuinely dangerous. And being alone sometimes isn't just unpleasant, it's actually dangerous too. And so tonight, what we're gonna look at in our second week of talking about friendships that are lifelines, is we're gonna look at a time when Jesus showed up for his friends, when it mattered a lot. A time when his friends felt alone and scared, and Jesus showed up for them. So we're gonna be in John chapter 11. We're gonna be in John chapter 11, and the question is like, what do we do? What do we do to combat that fear of being alone? Guys, when you're little, you carry a blankie and a teddy and a passy, and you're like, as long as I have this, I'm safe. But when you get to middle school, like number one, that'll get you made fun of. Number two, it doesn't solve all your problems. So what do we do when we're afraid of being alone? How do we do this? Let's look at what Jesus does. How do we be that kind of a friend? John chapter 11, verse 1 says this: there was a man who was sick. His name was Lazarus from Bethany, in the village of Mary and his sister Martha. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair, and it was her brother Lazarus who was sick. So the sisters sent a message to him and said, Lord, the one that you love is sick. So Jesus has these friends. He's super good friends with the three of them. It's Mary and Martha and Laz, and they're like all siblings, right? And Jesus is really great friends with all of them. And at one point, Mary, it says, had actually anointed the Lord with perfume. It was like that, they were super close, okay? And Jesus is off in another town. He's busy teaching. He's probably doing miracles. He's doing all these things. And Mary and Martha are so worried about their brother that they send a messenger, and they're like, hey, Jesus, you got to get here quick. Something bad is happening with Laz, and we don't know how to fix it. You got to come help us. And verse 5 is crazy. It says this: Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that she was sick, he was sick, he stayed 2 more days in the place where he was. Hold on a second. Jesus, Lazarus is super sick. It's an emergency. Come quick. He's like, man, I love you guys so much. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not come quick. Like, that's weird. Can we just agree the Bible sometimes is weird? Okay. Jesus holds up and he waits, and we're gonna find out why later, but he says 2 more days, and then after that he says to the disciples, all right guys, let's go to, it doesn't say that, that's me, okay. All right guys, let's go to Judea again. Rabbi, the disciples told him, just now the Jews tried to stone you, and you're gonna go there again. So Jesus takes 2 days, keeps on teaching, keeps on finishing the work he was doing, and then he says, all right guys, let's go and let's see Lazarus and Mary and Martha. And the disciples are like, hold on a second. So the last time we went to that town, they tried to murder us. I don't think you should go back. Like on the pros and cons list, there was like pro, I get to see my friend Laz. Con, I might get murdered. Like they were trying to stone him and kill him because they thought that they had all these wrong ideas about who Jesus was. But Jesus knew that there was danger. He knew that there was risk, and he was more concerned with being with his friends than he was his own safety. In other words, Jesus was the kind of friend who put someone else's needs ahead of his own. Jesus was the kind of friend who put someone else's needs ahead of himself. And Jesus went to see Laz knowing that it could very well be at great personal cost to himself, and it might actually get him killed. And if you read the rest of the story of the New Testament, by the way, this is the event that set forth him getting arrested and crucified. All of this actually comes out of this moment. There's this moment where Jesus had to decide, do I want to be there for my friend and risk it, or do I want to protect myself? And so here's the question I have for you. Are you the kind of friend who only helps or shows up when it's convenient for you or when it's easy for you? Or are you the kind of friend who's willing to love and serve your friends even when it costs you something? Because that's what Jesus did. Guys, real love is costly. And that's actually the first thing that I would show you about friends tonight is this. Big idea, real friends are willing to pay the price. Guys, do you realize that love always costs you something? If your friendship with somebody else, if you're not willing to be inconvenienced, if you're not willing to stand up for people who need it, if you're not willing to go, hey, I know that person is lonely over there, and I know it could get me in trouble with my other friend group, but you know what? I'm gonna go and I'm gonna serve them, and I'm gonna be with them, and I'm gonna care for them, even if it gets me made fun of or kicked out of this other group. Jesus demonstrated that he was willing to pay a price, and so the question is, will you? Real friends are willing to pay a price. All right, let's see what happens next. So, fast forward the story a little bit, and we're gonna find out that Lazarus actually died. Jesus was too late. It says that in this 2 days, while Jesus was sitting there finishing his business, it says that Lazarus died. And actually, Jesus, nobody had to tell him that. Jesus, because he's God, he knew it, and he told his disciples, he goes, hey guys, Lazarus fell asleep. They're like, no big deal. If he's taking a nap, he'll wake up. He goes, no, guys, it's not that kind of a nap, right? Like, he's asleep, like dead. And they're like, oh, like that's different, right? And he's like, then they're like, well, now we for sure shouldn't bother going. He's like, no, we're gonna go. So they show up in Judea, and I want you to see what Jesus did when he shows up to his friends who are so sad because their brother had just died. 2 things Jesus does with his hurting friends. Number 1, Jesus reminds them what's true. Look at verse 20. As soon as Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary remained seated in the house. And Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you'd have been here, my brother wouldn't have died, right? Like she's sad. She's like, man, I know Jesus could have healed him because I've seen him heal other people. Jesus, I don't know why you didn't fix it. Guys, this isn't the point of tonight, but some of you, there's some really hard things going on in your life. Maybe you have people that you really care about and God hasn't healed them and you're like, God, I know you could. I don't know why you haven't. That's how she was feeling, right? But then I love what she says. Even now, I know whatever you ask from God, God will give you. In other words, like, you could have kept my brother from dying. But I actually believe that if you wanted to, you could raise him from the dead right now. And Jesus is like, your brother will rise again, he told her. And Martha said, I know that he will rise in the resurrection at the last day, like in heaven, right? Like I get that. And Jesus is like, no. I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me, even if he dies, he will live. Everyone who lives and believes will never die. Do you believe this? And she said, yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, who comes into the world. Guys, when his friends were hurting, one of the things that Jesus did was he spoke truth over them. And he said, hey, do you know who I am? Do you know what's true about me? And guys, if I walk in and I'm like, hey, don't worry, I'm the resurrection, I'm the life, I'm Will. You'd be like, no, you're an idiot. Right, you're true, you're right, okay? But, so we can't do that. But we actually can model what Jesus did, and when our friends are hurting, we can walk in and we go, hey guys, I know this is hard. But can I tell you about my friend Jesus? Can I tell you about the hope that we have in Jesus? Even when life is really hard, that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, the resurrection and the life. The first thing Jesus does is he reminds them what's true. But here's my experience. Sometimes when your friends are hurting or when our friends are hurting, what we can do is we can go, all right, you know what? I'm gonna tell them all the happy, positive things that I know about the Bible, right? Like, here we go. All things work together for good. Like, I know your brother Laz just died, but don't worry, all things work together for good. It's gonna be okay. Quit crying, let's go. Let's go play some video games, right? Like, 100% serious. There's a lot of adults that this is how they are friends with their friends who are hurting. And I'm telling you, it is not the way Jesus was a friend. Yes, that's true. All things do eventually work together for good. God is in control of all things, but also I want you to see what he does, because he doesn't give them like a theology lesson in this big, like, don't worry, it's gonna be fine. Like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. The second thing he does, he doesn't just tell them what's true, he shares in their sadness. When Jesus saw her crying, look at verse 33. When Jesus saw her crying and the Jews who had come with her crying, he was deeply moved in his spirit and troubled. Where have you put him? As he asked. Lord, they told him, come and see. And then I want you to not miss this. John 11:35, shortest verse in the Bible. Jesus wept. And the Jews said, see how much he loved him. By the way, some of you guys are like, I don't cry, I'm a man. Jesus cried, you'll be fine, okay? That's not the point either. But look at this, guys. Jesus, for the record, already had decided that he was gonna raise Lazarus from the dead. And literally, he's like, by this time tomorrow, I'm gonna be having lunch with this bro. Like, he knew how it was all gonna end. But when his friends were weeping and were sad, Jesus entered into their sadness and Jesus felt their sadness. Guys, there is no greater honor and privilege than when your friends share something hard with you, it's okay to just be sad together. It's okay to be sad together, because here's the second thing I want you to see. Real friends know the power of their presence. The power of presence. Guys, I think there's a lot of pressure when your friends are hurting to go, man, you know what I want to do? I want to have all the right words. I want to have the perfect words to say. And I don't dare go see them or go call them or text them or anything until I know what to say. And I have no idea what to say. So I'm going to wait. And Jesus' example would be that, guys, real friends know the power of presence. In other words, that's a really big word, but it just means the power, or like how important it is to be together. Because what did we talk about at the beginning of the night? We all have a fear of being alone. And look what Jesus does. He just enters in. He says, you don't have to be alone. You don't have to cry alone. I'm here with you. I'm here with you. Guys, real friends know the power of presence, or the power of being together. There's a story in the Old Testament, a guy named Job. And this guy named Job, everything goes wrong in this guy's life. Like, seriously, he's rich. He has a big family. Everybody loves Job. He's the life of every party. And then all of a sudden, it all falls apart. And a bunch of his friends are like, well, Job, here's what you need to know. You see, if you really love God, this, and they like start preaching at Job, and it's the worst. Like, you just want to smack him. But before they got stupid, they had a moment where it says that they just sat with Job for a long time and just were quiet. Guys, that might be the most powerful thing you can do as a friend, because we all have a fear of being alone, and real friends know the power of presence. So guys, most of you probably haven't known a ton of sadness and a ton of grief, but some of you really have. And some of you are in the middle of it right now. And I want you to know, guys, being together is so much more powerful than knowing what to say. So if you're here and you're feeling alone in your grief or your sadness, man, would you invite some of your friends in your connection group in to have a part of that with you? And guys, if you have friends who are hurting, you need to know this: godly friendships will never leave you all alone. You're not gonna leave people alone. You're gonna model Jesus. And listen, Jesus wasn't just this kind of a friend to Laz and his sisters. He's that kind of a friend for us. See, Jesus didn't want us to be alone in our sin and our brokenness either. And just like when he went to Judea to visit Lazarus, he knew it could cost him his life. He actually came to this earth to be with us, and it did cost him his life. He died on the cross so that we don't have to be alone. That's the kind of friend that we have in Jesus. And maybe you're like at a point where you're like, I don't have any earthly friends that I can trust with my thing. Can I just tell you that Jesus is actually still offering to be that friend for you and with you? Because Proverbs 18:24 that we talked about in our game, there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. Guys, that's Jesus. That's Jesus. He's the friend who's not going anywhere. Guys, this whole series, we're talking about the kind of friend Jesus was and the kind of friend we can be. And if you could imitate one thing, it would be this. Hey, be willing to pay a price for your friends. It's gonna cost you something to be a good friend. and know the power of presence. Let's pray. Jesus, I love this story because at the end of this story, we see you restore Lazarus to life. We see joy. We see people who believe in you because they've seen your power. But in the middle, and in the sadness in this story, you just sat with your friends. And so God, for a student who's here, maybe there's hard things happening in their life right now. God, I know there's people in this room right now whose parents are in the middle of a divorce or they're fighting nonstop and they're sad. There's people in this room who got loved ones, grandparents or friends or even parents or siblings that are very, very sick, and there's sadness. God, help us be the kind of friends who gather around and we say, hey, we want to sit with you, we want to cry with you, we want to share some truth with you, but God, teach us the power of presence. And God, I pray that everybody who attends tonight and really for as long as Keystone Youth is a thing, God, would you help us to be a place where nobody has to be alone? We love you, Jesus. Amen.